Hello everyone, welcome to the Douser Dualies Gear Guide. The most common question that I received since the new season came out is, Chase, what gear should I run for the Douser Dualies? Well, let's answer that. Do keep in mind that the Douser Dualies are still a very new weapon, so even though most competitive players have figured out a fairly optimized build for it, that could very well change in the future. Keep an eye on the pinned comment of this video, because if anything about the Douser gear meta does drastically change, I'll be sure to put it there. What I'll do first is discuss the best abilities that people are generally running on this thing, giving a short explanation as to why, and also giving you an estimate as to how much of said ability that you should be running. Once we're done going over those, I'll provide some example builds that you could straight up copy or use as inspiration. After that, I'll go over a couple abilities that I believe have great potential for the weapon, but have just yet to be explored. Now that you know what we're doing, let's get started. So the first ability that I'm going to go over might be the most important one for the Douser Dualies, and what it is might shock you. Run speed up. Yes, that's right. Run speed is extremely useful on Douser Dualies. Why? Well, I'll go into more detail about this in my upcoming guide, but in a nutshell, you're not going to be dodge rolling too much with this thing. You're going to be utilizing the standard spread mode majority of the time, so why not do what you can to improve it? Just one main of run speed up makes you strafe significantly faster, making you a harder target and also allowing you to paint a bit more effectively. In fact, that's the exact amount you should run in my opinion. You could add a couple extra subs if you find yourself really enjoying the extra speed, but don't go overboard, because there's some other stuff you need room for. Next up, we have swim speed. I'm sure you saw this one coming. Swim speed is a top tier ability and it's helpful on pretty much anything. You don't need to run a ton of it, just a couple subs will make enough of a difference for it to be effective. I'd say that the sweet spot is 2 to 3 subs. Next, we have another ability that might surprise you, Intensify Action. The reason why Intensify Action is useful on the Douser Dualies is because of dualie hopping. Dualie hopping is when you jump up and down while firing in spread mode, just like a shooter would. I have a whole video dedicated to dualie hopping, so if you want to know more about it, be sure to check that out in the description. Dualie hopping is an extremely useful trick for the Douser Dualies, because as I said earlier, you'll be utilizing your spread mode a lot with this thing, more than any other dualie. I'll go into this more in depth next week, but just know that running some Intensify Action will improve your midair shot spread RNG, making dualie hopping an even more viable movement option. In regard to how much you should run, you have a bit of leeway here. Personally, I run 2 subs, which I think is the necessary minimum. But if you find yourself dualie hopping a lot, I think you could run up to 4 subs worth to really get value out of it. Comeback is an ability that you typically see on more aggressive or frontliney weapons, and Douser Dualies don't really fit either of those descriptions. However, most comp players are still opting to run it on most builds. The reason being that all 6 of the abilities that Comeback provides are extremely beneficial for the Dousers. Having the chance to get an extra main's worth of main saver, sub saver, ink recovery, run speed, swim speed, and special charge all for the price of just one main ability slot is way too good to pass up. And yeah, it's only for the first 20 seconds after you respawn, but still, even with that, it's more than worth it. It's not like Douser Dualies never die. Sure, it might die less than some other frontline weapons, but you will still die a decent amount with it. Might as well get some value out of when that happens, right? Speaking of special charge up, I think it's a good idea to stack a little extra on top of Comeback. This thing has a 200p killer whale. It paints decently, so that's not bad, but being able to get it more quickly is definitely going to help you out in the long run. This extra special charge up isn't absolutely necessary, but Killer Whale serves as a free end lag cancel and ink refill, so you're going to want to have it as much as you possibly can. I would say anywhere from 2 to 3 subs worth is a good amount to run. If you're not running Comeback for some reason though, then you should definitely have some special charge up equipped. Stealth Jump is another ability that, while not necessary, is massively useful. Yeah, you're not going to be jumping into your frontline teammates in the heat of battle with this weapon, but Stealth Jump is useful for more than just that. Even for something as simple as jumping into your backline who you think is in a safe spot, having Stealth Jump equipped can guarantee your safety. Plus, you never know what situation you might find yourself in. You might have to make a questionable jump in order to have a chance at winning the match. Well, Stealth Jump can absolutely increase your odds of winning if that's the case. I mean, come on guys, it's Stealth Jump. It's a top 3 ability in the game. There's really no reason not to run it. Lastly, we just have our standard utility subs that you see on pretty much every weapon. You don't need to run any more than 1 sub's worth of any of these, but I wouldn't recommend running any less. If you have room, you could add 1 sub of sub resistance to your build, as that's also useful to have, but it's not as important as the other 3 in my opinion. Alright, that covers everything that should go on a standard Douser Dualies build. Here are 2 examples of some optimized builds that you could run. The one on the left is actually the exact same build that I run, so I can guarantee you that this works well. Feel free to make slight modifications to these to suit your playstyle better, such as running a bit more special charge or another sub of quick super jump if you find yourself jumping out a lot. One ability that you might be surprised to not see here is Ink Saver Main, because this is something that a lot of people discussed running before the weapon actually came out. Well, truthfully, after getting to try the weapon, a lot of comp players made the realization that Ink Saver Main isn't really necessary on it. Yeah, its ink consumption isn't the greatest when performing a dodge roll, but again, you're not rolling super often with these. If you're primarily using the spread mode like you should be, ink management shouldn't be too much of a problem. Plus, any potential ink issues that you might have tend to be mitigated by comeback. If you're maybe a newer player or you're just really finding yourself struggling with ink management on the weapon, then you could maybe try to sacrifice some other abilities in favor of some Ink Saver Main. I'm telling you though, after just practicing the weapon a bit and learning how it plays, I really don't think you'll need it. The final thing I want to do is discuss a couple abilities that I think have potential with the Douser Dualies, but just haven't been experimented with enough yet. The ability that definitely comes to my mind first when thinking about this is Thermal Ink. This ability lets you see enemies through walls after damaging them. Since the Douser Dualies are relatively weak, this scenario tends to occur a lot. I already have near 200 wins on the weapon, and I can confirm that this does indeed happen. Last Ditch Effort is an ability that I think could be pretty good on Splat Zone specifically. I know I just said that this weapon doesn't really need any ink management perks, but if you're just trying to be a Splat Zone guarder who's just constantly putting down ink on the zone and spamming ink mines, this ability could be for you. Object Shredder is something that I've been very curious about on the Dousers, but haven't really gotten to play around with it yet. I have noticed that this thing's object damage is generally pretty terrible, especially with things like Splash Wall and the Rainmaker Shield. I don't know if Object Shredder would even help it that much, but if it does make it significantly better, it could be worth running. Here are some hypothetical builds that I made to accommodate these new abilities. If you have any other abilities that you think might be good on the Dousers, or any other hypothetical builds, feel free to comment them down below. Alright guys, that about does it for the Douser Dualies gear guide. I hope you enjoyed. If you found it helpful, please consider liking, subscribing, turning on notifications, all that good stuff. 1 week from today, I'll be posting the how to use Douser Dualies video, which will serve as a sort of guide on how exactly you should be using the weapon. It's going to be a good one, so I hope you'll look forward to that. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.